going alongside their jungle. So maybe teams have, kind of calmed down and realized, hey, that 2v2 in the jungle mid, rather important. But let's go ahead and get into draft. Machi going to be on your blue side, Resurgence on the red. And starting things off with the blue side set ban. Again, a regional special ban, it seems, here when it comes to the PCS.
Yeah, regional special ban, and alongside that would usually pair that up with a Karma, a lot of flex picks being taken out, considering the fact that we've seen, especially Set in 4 different roles, and as well as Karma in 2 and even 3, especially a top side, which we've seen from Hanabi, as well as a respect ban as well from Koala, taking out the Thresh.
Yeah, rather difficult, I think, to try and ban out, though, a lot of Resurgence. Resurgence themselves have had a rather deep champion pool, at least with things that they have tried on stage, and mainly just trying to get rid of some of the flexes, like you mentioned, some of those, what you call OPs, and actually a blue side Varus ban still leads us to believe that Bruce just does not have this champion in his pool, or they just say, you know what, Mexi was rather, comfortable on the champion back in spring, maybe we want to take it away, and another first pick Volibear coming out on blue side here with Machi.
Yeah, that's the thing, when we always think about Volibear in the PCS, not actually bringing the results that we expect, but most of the victories would come from Machi, especially a topside. PK has selected this bear twice, and in response, Resurgence is going to pick up this Ezreal, and that would mean possibly another Ashe Ezreal, or perhaps, that matchup in the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, instead of opting for something like the Aphelios or getting that Ashe, instead they kind of go to what's been a little bit of the tier 2, the follow-up pick for a lot of these teams. It has been just that Ezreal everyone's been falling back to, if it hasn't been banned out. Interesting here, though, we do get to see an Olaf come out of Epic, so even if it is an Ashe on the opposing squad, can't really do a whole lot to try and lock him down. This would be a bit of a spicy switch up here from Bruce, and it does get locked in. It is going to be the Kai'Sa getting locked in for the bot lane of Machi.
I am sure from spring, every single top tier AD carry have touched Kai'Sa, but has never ever succeeded. We do have 2 victories, I believe, from Kai'Sa, and one of them is definitely from Mexi. So I'm interested to see Bruce finally pick this AD carry back up in summer.
Yeah, Wei Lun was the other one that was actually able to find a victory so far when it came to summer overall. Pairing that up, it is going to be the Nautilus, so a heavy engaged champion with some roam potential, being locked in for Koala. Now for Resurgence, what do they want to try and do here on their side? Maybe try and go with the Braum, trying to soak up a little bit of that damage, instead of opting for something that could roam around, like, say, a Bard.
Yeah, pretty interesting choice coming from Resurgence. It feels like this could be possibly Boxer's comfort pick as well. He did use it yesterday, and as well as, for Machi on this Volibear, still we don't know whether or not that's going to be in the jungle or top side. But again, looking at the bans, it's going to be an Azir directed for Mission.
Yeah, just more or less a nod over there to Mission. I would like to see Resurgence maybe also try and ban out the Syndra. Or they might be actually trying to leave that up, possibly for Raven, and then see whether or not Mission wants to take something like a LeBlanc into it. A lot of options still available when it comes to mid. Interesting here, though, Machi respecting Shensekai's champ pool a little bit, as they are also now going to go ahead and ban out the Kennen that did have, one highlight ultimate that came out for Shensekai. Unfortunately, it was only about 20 minutes into the game. He only had 1 item and wasn't really able to do a whole lot on the champion by the time the game ended. So, more or less just a respect ban, and again, another mid lane ban being targeted over there to Mission.
Yeah, so it just means Resurgence is saying, okay, Machi, you can pick up the Corki, you can pick up the Zoe. We are going to be prepared for it, and Raven is going to be prepared for it in particular, since Raven has been shining for the past few matches, but would struggle when it comes to the 5v5. So I'm a little bit worried if he's not able to sort of be a little bit more active, considering he will be against Mission, who is going to usually be a little chill in the lane.
All right, so no Sylas here. Now for Raven. Looks like that Syndra is going to be the pick they wanted to try and go for, and it gives Shensekai the ability to get a counter pick likely into the top lane, unless we're getting a funky Olaf top. But here on the side of Machi, this is screaming dive now, in particular from Mission. Actually going to get that Galio getting locked in, pair that up with a Kai'Sa. makes the bot lane very volatile and maybe even locking in a Camille as well. There's going to be nowhere for Raven to run.
This is super interesting because when we see Mission, when we talk about Mission, he would always fall back to the traditional mages or any sort of scaling mages. But this is very interesting because he rarely picks the Galio pickup, and he's never picked it for summer at least. And this is the reason why I'm excited for Machi. It seems like they're turning a new leaf here.
Now for Shinsekai though in this top lane, you're going to go up against a Camille. So he's going to opt into the Renekton, go for the carry v carry in the top lane, and maybe get some action for himself. We'll see how he fares, though, up against PK, who has been able to have consistent and stable showings up in top side.
Yeah, and it seems to me, for Resurgence, they have finally found their footing when it comes to the picks in general. And now it seems a little bit more standard in comparison to what we've seen in the first round robin, where there is a ton of surprises. But now, for me, the biggest surprise is, Machi having a lot of, I wouldn't really say greedy picks, but it's kind of looking that way. It's like full aggression against Resurgence.
Yeah, once you hit level 6, we should be expecting action from Machi in particular. And this actually is a little bit different from them. We usually see them try and always fall back onto a scale game, which of course they can do themselves if they want to. They can play reactionary with this composition too. See if there's going to be any aggression coming out from Epic and then try and turn that around. But again, you have 4 members of Machi that can dive into a backline and then follow that up with a Kaisa or possibly even a Nautilus. So the backline, the Ezreal, the Syndra, those are both key targets on the side of Resurgence. We'll see whether or not they can survive the onslaught from Machi as we go ahead and load on into the Rift.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
And on we go for Resurgence and Machi. Last time these two teams faced off, it was a Machi victory. I believe it was Resurgence's first game of the split. Was not a great opening. We got to see Shinsekai on the Shyvana. It was the first little bit of variation we got to see out of Jensen on the side of Resurgence, where he was like, you know what, we're going to bring in some spicy drafts, we're going to try some different strategies, and then unfortunately things just kind of fell apart, and a lot of the time from what we've seen from Resurgence in summer so far has been just a lack of fundamentals. And it's hard to go for some of those cheese picks when you don't even have the basics down when it comes to, your top-tier competitive league.
Yeah, most of the time, early game would look really solid, but would fall off after a while and would seem a little bit lost. And yeah, I think that's the reason why they fell back into, the safer picks in the lane. And I wouldn't really say easier to execute, but definitely the picks that they were picking before are definitely much harder. And it was definitely focused on top side a little bit more. But now it's back to, Raven, perhaps maybe even Mexi in the later stages of the game.
Raven has been consistently hyped up. I know if you're a Singapore League of Legends fan, always near the top of the leaderboard when it comes to the solo queue ladder over on that server. We have seen Raven get some decent performances himself when it comes to this split. There have been moments where he's been able to carry Resurgence through some rough patches in some games, but there's just the other parts of the map that just kind of fall against them in their favor. Is PK. We wanted to see this top lane battle. Shinsekai wanted to jump in, but he's got to be careful himself. And oh no, he's going to go for a ward, but immediately over the wall, he has to flash himself back to safety. Has some bad timing trying to get that ward down.
And now without a flash, Shinsekai is going to be a little bit more careful when it comes to the lane, because for sure Gemini wants to get PK ahead on this Camille while the rest of, the bottom side, especially...
Yeah, especially. As,
especially.
Especially.
Lane, yes.
It's spooky. Sometimes. Oh, hello. That's pretty spooky. The taunt is going to land there onto Raven. Decent amount of damage, but not enough to take him down. But that's another flash being burned here by the presence being shown by Gemini on this volley bear.
Gemini is everywhere. First, top side, level 3, then in the mid lane. And I feel like it's a little bit extended. They have priority over there at bottom side. And if you take into account how much CC this bot lane has in the form of this Nautilus... Okay, never mind.
Okay.
He's still working on his checklist, it seems.
He's aiming for this right now. Mexi and Boxer, they get level 3. But Machi... this is a very early dive to come out. That's also going to be the teleport being used, and now Resurgence realize something has gone awry. Koala able to soak up the turret pressure, and there you go. First blood going on over to Mission as he teleports in, and once again they restart again. That just juggle of the turret aggro, deciding, hey, on the side of Boxer, he's going to go ahead and flash out to safety, but still first blood, first strike for Machi.
Yeah, let's take a look at that again. It all started with, again, Gemini having to visit that lane, and it was just a very clean dive with no sort of escape, considering the fact that Flash wasn't used. Mexi practically sort of gave up because, again, there's just too many people diving in.
And for me, this is concerning for Resurgence because this is Machi that we're seeing be aggressive in the first 5 minutes of the game, where Gemini has pretty much visited every single lane of Machi and Resurgences, where unfortunately Epic has been kind of reactionary, hasn't been able to do a whole lot himself. He's just trying to farm up as that Olaf. But if Machi are playing aggressive against you, that just shows how confident they are going up into this matchup.
And that is definitely spelling trouble for RSG, but PK diving in.
It's going to be a simple trade. I'll be shocked. Resurgence, they don't really have any more support, so Shensekai's just going to back off. He can regen out, but like you were saying, it can almost be a little bit greedy here from Machi, but as long as they're not being punished for it so far, it should be okay.
Yeah, they're not being punished, mainly because I feel like when you hear Machi, you will eventually hear sort of scaling, especially when it comes to mission. And that's why it may be uncharacteristic, but at the same time, you can see another identity folding, and as well as another fallback when playoffs comes, because I feel like this was something that we never exactly saw Machi back at spring playoffs.
And Shensekai has to be careful, as that's going to be, again, the hook shot into the next ultimatum, and you will see this combo repeated time and time again. Shensekai, there was even pings coming out from Epic and Raven warning him of the roam from the Galio, and he did not back off.
Yeah, great timing from before, having to burn that flash out of Shinsekai. The moment that Shinsekai is a little bit extended off his lane, then that is going to be the go button for the rest of the members to just collapse on top side.
And that's the thing. There were pings from Resurgence. They said for Shinsekai to have to back off. So for me, that just kind of translates into some miscommunication issues starting to form in the team, because Raven did ping. I assume in the comms he's saying, hey, Galio's level 6, Camille's level 6. Like Briz said yesterday, that was a world's-defining meta back when Galio was reworked. You have to respect it, as Machi's still not even going to relent pressure even down in this bot lane.
Yeah, and, Mission, having the time of his life, having to visit, top side, and as well as be having to neutralize Raven here in the mid lane, especially when we see, close victories from this team. Resurgence has definitely been relying on Raven's performance as well.
So now Machi up 2 kills before the 10-minute mark. Epic has, again, just tried to sneak by into these lanes to see whether or not there's going to be a gank, but only trying to be here reactively, because he realizes Machi at any point, if Gemini shows up and he shows himself, well, you're going to likely have Mission if he has that cooldown available, which, again, he doesn't have cooldown reduction just yet for that ultimate, but come time on his first item being a proto belt in most cases, you'll see this Galio non-stop pretty much every time that ultimate is available.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reason why Epic was lingering down as well is because he was the first one to reach level 6, so could have been a prime opportunity to catch Machi bot lane by surprise. But in the meantime, though, both of these junglers are moving towards top side, so this is a little bit worrying for RSG in particular.
PK did spot out, though, that Resurgence are moving on over, put down that ward, so Resurgence now realizing, okay, they are on vision. They do realize that they are being seen. Control ward also going to be used, and we'll see how Machi look to respond. Shetsukai also coming on down. That is 5 members of Resurgence collapsing here for the Rift Herald. Looks like on the side of Machi, they decide not to pull the trigger. There was a Sky Splitter, but it was only just trying to steal away the Rift Herald. A nice secure coming out from the Singapore squad.
Yeah, Resurgence was the first one to rotate their bot side to top. And once, Machi saw the attempt by RSG on the Rift Herald, that was the time where Bruce and Koala started moving up, but unfortunately, it was too late.
So with that, they have themselves a back pocket item, being Shelly, that they could throw down anywhere on the Rift. But you do see that Resurgence are being just even tracked by people just backing into their jungle. That's how little respect I feel like Machi are even showing at this moment, where they are just saying, hey, all right, if Raven passed through here, here's 2 of us. We don't even need the vision, it seems. We have an idea where they're pathing.
Yeah, Machi seems a little bit comfortable, considering the fact that usually they're the ones that would rotate first at certain objectives, and as well as take first dragon as well before rotating to Rift Herald. So it's actually very, very interesting having to find certain timings first. And yeah, this is the expected result when it comes to the kill score. And for RSG, good job for them for having that first objective for themselves.
And we see Raven on our screen. At this moment, because he is playing up into a Galio, that natural breakpoint that we usually see with Syndra, hitting that level 11 with usually a first item's Ludens. Unfortunately, your target being a Galio, it's rather difficult for him to get bursted, and we've already seen that Machi are not afraid to try and just take the fight to him, as he's going to get knocked up. He's going to get just bounce housed all over the place. Mission now on a killing spree, picking up every single kill so far for Machi.
Yeah, I think that's the worrying part. There's just so much dive on the side of Machi that any sort of repositioning seems a little bit impossible, as this is Exhibit A, basically, and taunt, CC in, no choice but to die.
And unfortunately, it seems like at the moment, Gemini is just kind of out jungling Epic when it comes to this matchup. He's being able to actually make impacts alongside the map. You also have Protobelt now being available for mission. I think Epic's been a bit hesitant because he realizes, all right, a melee champ, if I get in range of anyone, there is going to be likely a Galio, and maybe that's always been in the back of his head. They do at least get some turret plating and likely first brick gold into the pocket of the team, but they are going to split it 4-way, as it's not going to get funneled immediately onto Mexi.
Yeah, it's going to be shared between these 4 members at top side, and yeah, I think that's the difficult part. There's the Galio into the equation, and Raven hoping to look for burst. With that additional magic shield, it's going to make things even more harder for Resurgence to do that.
My concern here for Resurgence, though, is unless they're able to get this tower as well, which is highly unlikely, you just split pretty much all that gold between 4 members of your team, which instead of trying to inject that onto, say, Raven or possibly Mexi, you've kind of just spread that gold all apart, and everyone kind of gets about 200 gold here and there. But meanwhile, Bruce, he is already almost 30 CS up in his matchup and is getting solo experience as well as solo turret plating gold onto a Kaisa, which loves early extra gold.
Yeah, I think that is the exchange that Resurgence is banking on. We were questioning whether or not it could have been funneled into Raven or Mexi, or perhaps maybe even the Renekton, as it is usually the answer to any sort of squishy carries. That is funneled especially towards Bruce, but I guess since all these 4 is able to create impact in the fights later, they decided to just evenly spread it out.
So maybe that's a game plan, but gold difference overall, it is going to be about 2,500 in favor of Machi, as they are looking to try and creep that up to possibly 3K. We're going to have ourselves Infernal Drake spawning in about 3, as Machi was able to claim that as well off the back end of the pressure that was exerted by Resurgence on the top side of the map. So looking to stack up Drakes early means Resurgence give up one of those neutral objectives.
Yeah, in the meantime, for Resurgence, they're actually going to be happy having to farm air quote peacefully till the next objective, because yes, they're going to be looking towards, just as you mentioned, level 11, maybe a Ludens later, and as well as for Mexi with a usual 2-item power spike with, maxed out or stacking up still the Manemune later on. And for Shinsekai as well, for the Black Cleaver, Death Stance, if ever Shinsekai does approach that. So I think it's working out well for Resurgence so far, at least.
All right. We'll see here what Resurgence are going to be able to do, because we're starting to hit kind of another break point in their composition. Is once Raven is able to pick up his first item, being usually a Ludens, he's already got the Lost Chapter, hitting that level 11, you kind of have an opportunity to try and, go for a kill possibly on Bruce with enough burst to possibly burn him out before the rest of Machi look to respond.
Yeah, I think that is the difficult part, because when we looked at the draft, it was all about 4 different people having to dive into your face, and Raven is definitely going to be the #1 victim of that, since there's not a lot of mobility options in comparison to Mexi.
Oh, PK though gets himself
my.
a nice hook shot. In comes that Galio 3-man knock up. Raven able to just disrupt the fight a little bit. Shinsekai on the backside, unleash power, not able to take down the volley bear, but re-engage comes back out from Mission, getting some damage down. But the split focus fight from Machi, unfortunately, they themselves don't have the damage they're looking for, and Resurgence are able to hold.
Yeah, for Machi, they weren't able to funnel damage into a single target to finish off key players such as Raven and Mexi, and it was a little bit scattered. RSG actually played that fight well, making sure that once they were the target focus, they backed off a little bit, so Machi was forced to change a different side. And in the meantime, RSG reap their rewards, get more space to get this Rift Herald as Machi resets and go back to base.
Now, I'd still be a little bit careful if you are Resurgence. I think you're happy that you're actually able to take down the second Rift Herald as well as survive that fight in mid lane. But if that's the same situation like that in about 10 to 15 minutes when, Machi has 2 to 3 items, there's going to be a lot more upfront bursts onto those key members, and you have to be careful for those flanks.
Yeah, definitely. For Bruce, should be careful later on. He will definitely pack a huge amount of damage after activating the Killer Instinct. But the problem is, which I think could be a problem, is that Koala will not be able to follow up. The rest might not be able to peel. We've seen how Kai'Sa would dive in, eat a CC, a heavy CC, and then would die. So I think that's something the RSG can look into when it comes to these fights later on.
Could see. They do have a little bit of point-and-click CC in the form of that Renekton. If you are looking to dive onto a Renekton, it would be a little bit weird from Bruce. But other than that, the reliable CC is mainly in the form of just a Renekton and maybe a little bit of the Braum. Raven has to hit his Scouter of the Week. Do see, though, that tower is going to be taken, and Bruce gets more gold into his back pocket.
Oh, they're going
getting
in.
Very aggressive, but you got to be careful when you pop that Ragnarok. You do take that extra damage, and like that, Mission is able to back off, does use his flash. I do like Resurgence are willing to take fights here to Machi, showing they cannot just run wild here on the map.
Yeah, they started the fight while Shinsekai was split pushing at the opposite side of the map, and the same goes for PK at the bottom side, and it seems it's going to be a little bit equal, except for the fact that Epic released the Rift Herald here, so there's not exactly a trade of objectives when it comes to Machi and RSG wins this one.
So for Resurgence now, the fact you've been able to get the second tier tower in top lane, you're pretty much saying, all right, Shinsekai, you are now unlocked onto the map. You can go where we want. You can try and get pressure into a side lane. We can continue at least trying to get turrets in our favor. The thing you gotta still realize, though, is that 3-kill lead has also translated into a 3,000 gold lead still because of the CS difference primarily between Bruce and Mexi at the moment.
Yeah, I think that is definitely the scary part, as Machi is, building up to that gold lead, and for sure Bruce will be able to delete one of the squishy members from RSG later on. So again, it's one of those things where who gets their carry first, and I feel like Raven could be a good solution. Mexi might be a good solution to poke first before anything else, but if Machi pulls the trigger, then RSG has no choice but to rinse and repeat what they've done earlier in the mid lane.
It's the hottest new game show for the PCS. Burst my carry. who's gonna
my
actually,
carry.
who's gonna survive, a Syndra or the Kaisa? Kaisa with a little bit more mobility. Raven, though, with a little bit more upfront damage once he actually finishes off his first item. And I think that's kind of where Resurgence, you've seen them a little bit teasing at the moment, saying, hey, we can almost take down some members of Machi. Once to get that first item breakpoint onto your Syndra and that level 2 into the ultimate, there might be the possibility they just blow up Bruce during a fight and find themselves their first kill of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And for Raven's counterpart, you know, Medjai's having been stacking up for mission here, already 6 stacks. Zhonya's as well, to survive a little bit more of the dives. I'm afraid for Shinsekai here. They're setting up for a
Speaking
dive.
of dive here is, there you go. Oh my goodness, they bring in the
Oh,
squad. True Shot Barrage comes on through. Raven able to get a little bit of damage back from himself, but still not enough. Unleash Power almost takes down PK, but re-engage comes out, and Bruce finds himself another kill here on the Kaisa. And that is the power of this Machi composition. They have the go button available, and you also have the cheaper item builds coming online earlier in the game. Allows them to get away with a play like this without losing a single member.
Yeah, you see Raven having to just go back still to base, forced to use a teleport to join the fight. Epic and Mexi were not around during the whole duration, and once they arrived, that was the time Machi was already ready to back away, and unfortunately, that hook coming from Koala added more to Resurgence's casualties, and for Machi, they'll definitely be happy about that one.
Yeah, because I was about to bring up the item disparity mainly through the mid lane as Raven, because he has to go into a Ludens instead of opting into the GLP, which we have been seeing from a little bit of the Syndras within the region, trying to at least match to a Galio. He wanted a little bit more upfront burst, and he wasn't even able to take down PK, who had dived in himself. And you take a look at that gold graph, both Mission and Bruce. Sure, Mission is on something like
Raven.
a Galio, but he does carry level damage, and PK just comes on over the side, helps him out, and Raven gets obliterated.
More stacks for Mission, and yeah, it seems to me like who gets to kill the carry first, and Raven, unfortunately, that jungle is riddled with Machi wards, and it seems that nothing is safe at the moment against this Machi dive composition.
Yeah, really only that line of control wards, all in the corner, right beside the bot lane. Resurgence hasn't actually been able to refresh their ward coverage throughout any of the jungle. Shinsekai's pushing top lane, but he isn't even knocking on the inhibitor tower. There's actually pings coming out now, but you can see it's delayed. Let's take a look back, though, as Raven realizes he's kind of boned right when he sees that Galio pop in the river for half a second.
Yep, and even having to hope to destroy the ward still, but unfortunately there was a ward somewhere in the lane, and PK is able to get that kill off of Raven. And in the meantime, Shinsekai is still pushing towards top side, but is unable. Okay, RSG.
You do
They're
see
planning something.
Boxer and Epic are going to try and maybe get a shutdown here on Mission.
no.
Would go well, but Mission is able to spend
Raven.
it out, and oh no, Raven! PK doesn't even take 100 damage as Raven just gets CC down. Mission kind of realizes maybe something's gone awry here. He's going to go ahead and force a flash out, uses the Proto Belt to get himself back over to safety, and even using all that on the side of Resurgence, they still have not been able to pick up their first kill in the game.
That's the sad part, because they don't have a reliable chain CC. Just as you mentioned earlier, it is just, you know, Shinsekai here on this Renekton and as well as Boxer, but anything else, Mission can just slip away so easily, and with that, no trade has been done by Resurgence, and they lose that end of the bargain.
And unfortunately, this game reminds me a lot about how we saw some of Resurgence's games happen back in spring, where we aren't seeing anything be done by Resurgence when they are supposed to have these item spike points, where they're supposed to have these, you know, just composition breakpoints, where you have Shinsekai. He gets unlocked on the Renekton. Cool. He's only gotten a little bit of damage. Machi have even left him alone in a side lane, and they even, you know, fell for that trap, and they weren't even able to pick up a kill. You saw Raven. Well, doesn't matter. You're 0-4. If PK can solo kill you, it's kind of game over for this Syndra in most situations, because that's without even a Galio ultimate piling in.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest problem is that for Machi, they would always catch RSG off guard under towers, which is definitely, you know, that's the reason why they have assembled this composition. And for RSG, they would most likely would love to be together as 5 to have a better chance when it comes to, you know, surviving and actually winning the team fight. Especially, you know, eventually, looking at mission now, I doubt this Galio is going to fall off anytime soon, since this is a big Galio 303 with 12 stacks in. No one is able to punish. RSG wanted to try, but so far, still, this Gal is going to deal a huge amount of damage to the squishies.
Yeah, we say Galio's more like utility focused in most cases. At the beginning of the game, he is, and then, you know, almost everyone now has been building Magi's when it comes to the mid lane, when it comes with the Galio. I'm also concerned here when it comes to Mexi's pick, because we saw them decide, all right, we want to go for this Ezreal for the sake of having safety, and Mexi likes to play it. But unfortunately, we're starting to see what teams are starting to do up against an Ezreal, which is dive it early and then put it far behind. And you've gone for this Iceborne build, which sure, you get some extra armor, but you're never going to be able to kite back Machi unless they completely misplay a possible scenario. Is look at this. PK, he sees where Epic is on the map, and that's enough information for Machi to decide, all right, we'll just go for the Baron. PK might even get the solo kill because Epic popped the Ragnarok so early, forced the flash on over the wall, uses the hook shot. They can't even catch the Camille. Baron's being taken by Machi, and Resurgence have lost complete focus.
Yeah, PK was just strutting in the bottom side of the map, and RSG was completely distracted, just having to see whether or not they can punish, you know, PK lingering around. But in the meantime, Machi is able to get that Baron, and is just, you know, pushing them more into that victory spore again in this matchup.
All right, Shinsekai, he's going to try and at least get the solo kill on to PK, but you see this Camille does just so much damage if you don't respect it. Sweep will come on through, in comes the ultimatum, and comes the Galio ultimate. We've seen it before. Shinsekai can't even finish off the kill on PK. PK finally will fall. First kill of the game for Resurgence at 25 minutes. Does mean, though, they are still 8,000 gold behind.
8,000 gold behind, 3 dragons in Machi's pocket, could be 4 with that Ocean Soul in the next 40 seconds or so. Baron empowered minions, and as well as having to push RSG's different structures. This is Resurgence still struggling, and unfortunately for Mexi, it's still not working out when it comes to, you know, the typical 5v5s that we'd like to see from RSG.
It's already, it feels bad when you're going up against a Camille that was half health when you started off the fight, and then you realize, oh, I didn't finish her in time. There's a Galio coming at this point. Sure, Raven's able to at least trade back a kill, but for Resurgence, just the tunnel vision coming out of this team, especially in this game, giving up a Baron because you're trying to chase PK through the jungle, I'm just in shock.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where RSG is trying to find little bits of victories here and there, and never mind, there's another fight.
And Bruce is also online. He can do some decent burst himself. PK jumps in over on the wall. Boxer's going to get tagged. Here comes Bruce with a killer instinct. That is Ocean Soul. And for Machi, they say, we're going to take everything else on the map, and that includes your bodies, as they put them in the ground. Double kill for Mission. It's an ace for Machi, and the push in onto the base.
Yep, Rapida's Galio, 25 stacks on the Magi's. Yep, Mission is one big beefy Galio. And for Machi, this game, yep, it's in the bag.
Sweep it under the rug, they say here for Machi. Not even going to leave anything behind. Resurgence have to watch their base just get decimated before 28 minutes. And Machi, ever so dominating, remind Resurgence there's still a long way before you even come close to the top of the table of the PCS.
Yep, and another win for Machi to distance themselves from rather reaching and closing in towards J-Team at the top of the standings. And with that, yep, it looks like it's just another day of work for Machi tonight.
Yeah, minus that one death and I guess the double Rift Heralds that were taken. Pretty much a perfect game coming out from Machi. That was exactly what their comp needed to do. And you kind of look back onto Resurgence, and I have to kind of ask, you know, what's Epic going to do for this composition, I guess, is my big question. When did this Olaf really have anything to add to the composition? That was kind of my question. And we also have seen him do this so many times where he tunnel visions onto the top laner on the bot side of the map, and then Baron's just taken by the other team. I don't get it. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, we've seen it a couple of times, even back at Spring. And I think the unfortunate thing about this is that Machi really read them like a book. It's like, okay, your composition, you'd want to wait a little bit more. Okay, for us, we can be active at the first 10 minutes of the game, and when you come online, it's going to be too late. And I like this side of Machi. I like this confident side of Machi, which, you know, I hope to see a little bit more, especially when they go up against the top 3 teams of Summer.
And with that, we get to take a look at the post-game graphics. It is a crime scene when you take a look at the damage dealt overall.
Mission!
Mission? Well, he's on a mission, all right. For damage, he was the damage Galio. He was the true carry Galio. I think he hit 25 stacks at the end of the game. He truly did ascend. It is a big issue when your Olaf that was barely ever on the map in a lane did more damage than your Syndra and Ezreal on almost 30-minute game. Those are some spectacular damage numbers in the wrong direction. But enough of that. MVP is going to go on over to Machi's Gemini in the jungle for the early game aggression. We saw him. He went to every single lane pre-level 6. That's even before I expect the Volibear to do anything on the map because he doesn't even have his ultimate. Proved us wrong. Made it happen. Good job to Gemini.
Yeah, it was perfect. Every single lane had some sort of air quote gap closer in as well as hard CC. So it checks out. Gemini, top, mid, bottom, everything's there, and you know, it helped propel the rest of the lanes from Machi.
So now for Resurgence, it's back again to the whiteboard to see if they have anything to do. We're going to go ahead, though, and take an interview on over with PK
好的，
alongside
那其实稍
Patty.
早的时候，哈纳比有提到，就是上路现在比较偏功能角，但是你今天是拿出了卡密尔这样子的斗士角来 carry， 那你怎么看现在上路在比赛中的重要性？
So earlier today, PSG Hanabi shared with us that he thinks it's better to use utility champions and tank champions on the top lane and focus the game on the bottom. But today you chose Camille and carried the game. So what do you think about the importance of top laners in this meta?
我觉得上路还是有比较少机会可以拿出斗士，因为像中路也可以拿出坦型或功能型的，这种时候上路就可以选比较 carry 的。
So you can choose top laner, you can use tank or carry champions. It depends on the mid lane. If you use utility champions in the mid lane, which is very popular in this meta, then you can choose a more aggressive top laner.
那第二题想问 PK 也是，就这一场游戏，其实你们在游戏中就很频繁的对对方的中路做进攻，甚至中期打出了一度是对方是040。那这个一开始就是从 BP 完就决定的吗？还是教练去下的一个决定呢？
So from the start of the game, you guys have been focusing all your aggression and your team fights in the mid lane. So who made that decision? Is it during BP by your coach, or was it decided later in the game by one of your members?
这把一开始其实打算是要帮上的，只是因为东山说对手带的是 TP， 所以需要帮他一下。但可能对手看起来给了蛮多次机会吧，所以他死得蛮惨。
So we wanted to focus our team fights and our lane pushing on the top lane, but our mid laner mission told us that because the opponent has TP and he needs some help, so we went there to help him, and then later on it seems like our opponent gave us a lot of chances in the mid lane, so that's why it seems like we're focusing on the mid lane.
OK， 那也恭喜你们拿下今天的胜利，当然也感谢翻译，也谢谢 PK 接受我们的访问。不过在今天 Machi 赢下了胜利之后呢，
And a nice interview there over by PK saying, you know what, you can play aggressive top laners if you got that support coming in from your mid lane, which was literally the perfect composition that is Galio Camille. Like we mentioned, that's actually a broken combo when it's meta. So again, congratulations on over there to Machi. Again, remain toward the top of the table. Still now tied with AHQ when it comes to the standings and looking to hunt down possibly Type A JT. We are going to go ahead though and take a short break. When we come back, it's going to be Liab taking on Nova for our classic Battle of Southeast Asia.
CTBC Bank is Taiwan's top financial institution, but we're not stopping there. We're crafting an international brand and already have over 260 outlets in 14 countries. We are by your side, ready to embrace the future.